Well, we're back. I'm going to comment on that in a little bit. Also, real quickly, if you noticed in the tape rule, I said that this new law is not going to bankrupt us. Now, being that this is about survival, I'm not going to get into all the political propaganda. I'm not going to get into all of that details yet. But we do need to look and analyze and be realistic and common sense and what have you. And we have to consider the fact that if this law, which roughly costs $1 trillion, if this is going to bankrupt us, we need to look at the past 10 years. But in reality, we could analyze, calculate, and hypothesize and what have you. We could look at the history of our nation. And if this law, which is only $1 trillion, I know you're saying, only $1 trillion. Look, if we look at the amount of money that this nation has spent on wars, let's forget about everything else, but on wars in the last 200 years, we spent literally probably 10 to 15 trillion dollars. And I'm not talking about the current wars. I'm talking about wars since the revolution up till then. So if anything was going to bankrupt us, it would have been the wars. Let's not forget, while this bill has a projected cost of $1 trillion, keep in mind that since 2000, and we got into the Afghan war, and we got into the Iraq war, so far to date, that's $3 trillion. That's $2 trillion more. And ultimately, this bill, this law, will need to be strengthened, will need to include more people, but ultimately, it will cost us less in the long run. And it is not socialism. It is not even any political ideology. It's the right and moral thing to do. I'm not Mr. Religious. When it comes to the Bible, I may know a few verses, but I know this. Jesus said that we should help our brother. I'm not saying exactly where he said it in the Bible, how he said it, but he did. So if we sit here and we complain about, I'm going to have higher taxes as a result of this bill, which for the most part you're not. But if we do, then we forget the teachings of Jesus. And if you're Buddhist or whatever, I'm sure that any God that you believe in, for the most part, there are parallels and parables saying you should be taking care of your family. So the bottom line is, we need this law, we need to strengthen it, and we need to eventually get it to be 100% universal health care. Having said that, keep in mind, not every universal health care system on the planet is 100% run by the government. There are systems in place that are run privately and by the government, and it allows private and government-run healthcare, and there are private companies. So all the propaganda that you've been hearing over the last really 18 years since the first attempt at healthcare under the Clinton administration, well, a lot of it is outright deception. And you need to ask one very simple question. Why would any member of Congress try to deny you free health care when you, yeah, I'm pointing at you, not to be ignorant, I'm telling you right now, you, me, Chuck, Chris, all of us are paying for every member of Congress's health care. They pay $503 a year on just one of their 40 plans. There's one called the Office of the Attending Physician. Under that, they pay $503 a year. They have all the health care they could ever need. It covers everything. They never have a copay. They never have co-insurance. They never pay another penny. $503 a year, and 75% of their cost is subsidized by the American taxpayer. Now, keep in mind, we pay for that, plus they get $174,000 a year annual base pay. So when you look at it, Their base pay is 3 times more than most Americans, and they're getting it free, and they're getting government-run health care because guess what? The United States Navy is the one who runs the office of the attending physician. So basically, you have at least half of the members of Congress outright lying to you. But from a moral standpoint, if we don't do this, well, I'm going to tell you right now, this country is going to go to Hades. I want to say the H word, but I'm going to say it. And with that, I'm going to put my man, well, not my man, but I'm going to put the young man, Charles, on the spot. And then I'm going to do something even worse than that. I'm going to have Chris ask Charles a question, and then I'm going to catch them both off guard. Because I'm just like that. Whether it's Humanity Matters, Unity Antiers, I don't care what it is, I'm going to do that. No, I'm going to do it right now. I can't read that right now. I'm talking to Charles. You can ask that question. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Let me see this. How am I going to do that? All right, well, we'll get to that in a minute. I ain't supposed to be reading it. Don't be passing me notes on live TV or even tape TV. What are you doing passing me notes? He passing me notes. What are you doing passing me notes? Sorry, back to the normal part. All right. We could not necessarily hear what you said earlier. So, Living Ministry stands for, and speak louder just in case we're having audio issues.
Right. Living Ministry is an acronym.
Up.
Living Ministry is an acronym. We'll make sure you hear this.
All right.
Love-initiated ventures investing in neglected groups. Okay, so that's the living, and then obviously ministry. We are a Christian ministry. And we started with the idea that ministry should be life, right? Ministry is not like you do a 9 to 5 and then that's it. Don't call me at 5:01, right? Don't call me at 8:59. Right. Ministry's life. And so life has, you have a lot of issues, and right? You talked about your show, Humanity Matters. Right. And so people matter, and so we try to do ministry in a way where we would include as many people as possible. And so to do that.
So Living Ministry stands for, and speak louder just in case we're having audio issues.
Right. Living Ministry is an acronym. Up. Living Ministry is an acronym. We'll make sure you hear this. Right. Love-initiated ventures investing in neglected groups. Okay, so that's the living, and then obviously ministry. We are a Christian ministry. And we started with the idea that ministry should be life, right? Ministry is not like you do a 9 to 5 and then that's it. Don't call me at 5:01, right? Don't call me at 8:59. Right. Ministry's life. And so life has, you have a lot of issues, and right? You talked about your show, Humanity Matters. Right. And so people matter, and so we try to do ministry in a way where we would include as many people as possible. And so to do that, we just live lives next to the homeless and do all that we can to serve them in a variety of different ways. Okay,
here's the question. People that are homeless, they're freeloaders, right?
There's some.
No, there's not. That was a rhetorical question.
Right.
I'm being smarty pants, but anyway. Okay, we have the viewers out there, and some probably are thinking they're nothing but layabouts. Tell them to go get a job, get a house. All right, why is that not true, in your opinion? For the most part, why is that not true? Why are the homeless not essentially freeloaders, for the most part? And why should we care? Why should anybody care about somebody being homeless?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, I told you I'm tough.
I think that's a two-part question. Why are people not freeloaders? And then two, why should we care? Why are homeless not freeloaders? Well, I think people need to understand the homeless situation a little bit better before they make a judgment. I remember I was a freshman at the University of Pittsburgh, and my roommate had this girl he really liked. And I told her one day, you know what, I work with the homeless. And she said, oh, those lazy bums, they need to go get a job, you know? And that's kind of the mentality that a lot of people have. And unfortunately, that's not accurate, right? When you see the homeless, you might see the person that's panhandling and think every homeless person panhandles. Or you might see a homeless person that's strung out on drugs or something and assume every homeless person uses drugs. Or every homeless person has a mental health issue. But obviously those things aren't true. There's people that aren't homeless that use drugs. There's people that aren't homeless that have mental issues. There's people that aren't homeless that ask for money, right? That beg for money. And so we need to delineate between what truly is a cause for homelessness and what is not. What is a symptom of homelessness and what is not. The more that we keep stereotypes, the more that we're keeping the homeless down, right? Because we're just assuming the worst about them. We don't want to do that, right? We want to assume the best about the homeless. So instead of making judgments, I would say spend time with the homeless, right? Spend time and figure out truly what homelessness looks like, because it's so different for so many people.
Well, also there's a lot of children that are homeless. There's a lot of people who worked all their life, got laid off because of the bad economy or got fired, that are now homeless. And they said something about, I was reading with regards to people who go to food banks that are not necessarily homeless, but just going to food banks. There's over 40 million Americans that now have to go to the food bank, or they would not eat that entire day. Over 40 million. And this is a country of 300 million, so that means that at least almost a quarter or more of our fellow Americans, and it's increasing. So we should not make judgments like you said. But also, what about the fact that, now you're a minister, so you probably know where Jesus said that in the book. Essentially, he said, take care of those who need taken care of.
Right, take care of the poor.
So aren't homeless people human beings? Don't they mean something to people? It means something to me.
Right, and I think that goes to your second question of why should we care?
Right, why should we care?
And I think, one, there's that humanity part of, right, the homeless are brothers and sisters, right? I mean, we believe that the homeless are made in the image of God, just like anyone else. They're no better or no worse than anyone else. And so as I would help my own family or help, you know, a friend or something like that, I would want to help the homeless in the same way. That's A. But then also the second thing is, when we help the homeless, many times we're helping ourselves as well, for multiple different reasons. You know, it could be when I help a homeless person, then I'm adding value to my neighborhood. When I help the homeless person, my eyes are open to need, and I'm more aware of situations, right? Sometimes we can get trapped in our own kind of bubble and not realize all the issues. You talked about a healthcare issue, and there's multiple issues, but if I'm just worried about my own life, I miss out that there's people struggling with healthcare. There's people struggling with transportation and these other issues, kind of obstacles that are happening. And so we got to have our eyes open to these issues, because they won't get solved by one or two people trying to go after them, right? We all need to, as a collective, go after them, but we can't do that without being aware of them. And I think when we help those less fortunate than ourselves, we become aware. We become aware that, you know what, the welfare system's not right. Or, you know what, this system's not right, or the shelter system's not right. You know, there should be more beds, or there should be more of this, or, you know, man, job system's not right, or whatever. We get to kind of...
Right, you learn more about it.
Right, and I think that's very important. And so that's why I think it matters that we get involved with the homeless.
Well, that's a good reason. That's a pretty good reason. Well, I do believe that Chris wants to ask you some questions, and then we're going to talk about that health care issue.
All
Wow.
right.
My question is, do you believe that Allegheny County and City of Pittsburgh Section 8 vouchers, being that there's a freeze on them, do you think they contribute to the homelessness?
I think that's a good question. I do believe that at some part of it does. I think Section 8 vouchers are not the answer to ending homelessness. I think they definitely help. There are many, many thousands of families that benefit from Section 8. But sometimes Section 8 is also kind of like, almost like bad hope. You know, it offers hope, but, you know, it really doesn't solve issues. If someone has an issue with financial budgeting, Section 8 voucher is not going to help that. It's just going to provide you cheaper housing. But you still might mismanage your money, you know, with something else. Or if you have addictive behaviors, Section 8 voucher doesn't fix that. And so homelessness is a greater issue than just housing. You know, there's a myriad of things that really add to the problem. And so having one thing, fixing one you know, facet of it doesn't necessarily fix the whole thing. And I think Section 8 only addresses the housing, but doesn't necessarily address, still need people or ministries or organizations that come alongside the people that benefit from Section 8 to make it the most effective.
And then there's also people who say, well, I'm not going to give money to a homeless person because they'll just buy booze or buy cigarettes and things like that. So why should I give it to a homeless person?